Sunday here, I was asking the wardens and some of the vestry, what should I do this first Sunday? And they said, just let us get to know you. Tell us a little bit about you. And I thought, well, okay, I will do that. And I'm going to weave a bit about myself through the lessons. For today. So to begin with, I just want you to know that I am a North Carolinian. I was born in Hickory in 1950. And I grew up at Ascension Church, and I sat on the same pew for about 16 years, and I was bored to death. Those of you who knew the church in the 50s, it was rough for a young person. But something must have gotten in, because I have stayed and stayed and stayed. And I love that church, and so I go back there too whenever I can to worship with them and see those folks, although there are not a lot of them left right now. Okay, so I grew up in Hickory, and then when I was an older teenager, I started making my way to St. Luke's. Is there anybody here that remembers Gray Temple and his wife Jean? Oh, we have some, yes. They were pretty amazing, and when I think of them, I think of Anna. Where are you, Anna? Because Anna is connecting campus life with this church. And that's what happened for me. Gray and Jean connected me as a college student with St. Luke's. Now, I worshiped over there every Sunday in that wonderful chapel. But I began to know more about church in a different way with a younger group of people, and that was truly wonderful. So I really have a special place in my heart for St. Luke's. I want you to know that I'm going to tell you two experiences that I had. And while I do that, I want you to think about God and God as transcendent. Okay? God as out there. God as the creator, the being that set all of this into motion. God transcendent. And I also want you to think of God as immanent. And we have not been used to talking about God's immanence as much as his transcendence. It's easy to talk and think about a God who's not real close. You know? It's harder to think and talk about a God that is with us all the time, in every interaction. Jesus walks with us. However you feel that to be, that's fine. But God is both transcendent and immanent. Well, on a Saturday morning, when I was about maybe 19 and I was coming up here every now and then, I went to the movies. I went by myself because there wasn't anybody to go with, and there was a movie out that was called King of Kings. Anybody ever see that movie? It's one of the first movies about Jesus. And I went, and I was so glad I was by myself, because I was able to exclaim or sort of yell or mutter under my breath or whatever you do when you're by yourself at a movie. And I hear some giggling over there. I want to talk to you about what you do. And so I went to that movie, and all of a sudden, all those years of being preached to about Jesus and all of these gospel stories, the light bulb went on. It's like, oh my gosh. And I felt within my soul, within my heart, an understanding of Jesus I had never felt before. God became both transcendent and immanent at the same time. And it was a wonderful revelation for me. So I walked home and I was thinking about that. I was still living in Hickory at the time. That is one thing that I wanted to share with you. And I want you to know that not everybody learns by ear. There are many learners who are visual learners. I have an older daughter that's one. She's an artist. I have another that learns by sound and music, but not necessarily words. There are many ways to learn. And so the movie, seeing the story, is what brought Jesus to life for me. Very strange. It's like, what in the world? Okay, Helen, we believe you because you're standing there. And obviously, it had an effect. So that's the first. The second thing that I wanted to share with you is this. Somewhere in there, before I started college, I went with my mother, my sister, and other members of my family to Paris. They wanted to take us to France to give us a wider experience of the world. So on this occasion, I was with this, she was my niece, and we were together in the Louvre. Now, if you've ever been in the Louvre, you would be a little disheartened because as wonderful as all the artwork is, you have to climb so many stairs just to get to it. And I mean a lot of stairs. So I'm standing at the bottom of a bunch of stairs, and my niece is with me, and we're getting ready to climb up. And I think it was to see the statue of David that was there at that time. Incredible piece of work. But, so we're standing there, I'm getting ready to step up, and I look up, and there is this being coming down the steps. I don't have a good word for what I saw, but he was absolutely beautiful, and he was bathed in light. His whole body was in an aura. And what I noticed is, as he was coming down the stairs at a normal pace, I mean, he was dressed like any other hippie of the day. You know, we were bell-bottoms and peasant shirts. He was dressed like that, but I really had to work to recall what he was dressed in, because that's not what was interesting. It was the light. He shone. He shone. He came down the stairs, and the people going up and down on either side moved away from the aura. It was really amazing. He was just by himself coming down, and when he got to the bottom, he turned and went into the crowd and disappeared. It's hard to talk about this because you go, well, what? Well, there is no what, except that experience has stayed with me, resonated with me. It was a holy space. I turned and I looked at my niece, and she was in tears. And I said, "Did you see him?" And she said, "Yes." And she said, "I'm so glad you saw him, or I wouldn't have believed what I saw." So the two of us shared that experience on that day, and it has been a powerful memory for me throughout my spiritual journey. And on that day for me, Jesus was both transcendent, but boy, was he immanent. Immanent. I said, "What was that?" And she said, "For me, it was Jesus." I said, okay. So she named it for her. I'm naming it for me. I don't know if it was Jesus or an angel, or I just know that it was one of the most powerful experiences of my life. I want you to know that the majority of people in this room have had a similar experience somehow. We don't talk about them. This is one of the few times I've ever talked about that kind of an experience. We don't have a venue really to talk about the power of personal experience, and that's a shame. So, but it was mine, and I just wanted to share that with you. As you leave today, I want you to think about this. Where is God immanent in your life? How do you see Jesus? How do you see Jesus? Where is Jesus? Well, I was at Northminster Baptist Church in Jackson, Mississippi. I lived in Mississippi for 20 years, and I did an EFM group. I was a mentor of an EFM group for the first Baptist group that's ever been in EFM. And boy, was it amazing. It was amazing because I learned so much. Because I sat with the Baptists, and with that group of 12, and that first 3 months, I could hardly get them out of the book of Genesis. They were so excited at what they were learning. They talked all the time. It was all I could do to keep up with them. They were thrilled. But we finally moved out of that, and so I was moving into some other things, and all of a sudden they stopped talking. They were quiet, and I thought, what is going on? After 2 or 3 weeks of that, I stopped the lesson. I said, what's going on in the group? I do not understand what's happening. You all used to talk all the time. Now nobody will say anything. It had gotten a little personal. And they said, Helen, you don't understand us. What we are trained from the time we're little children is that we hear the gospel and our focus is out. We're outside of ourselves, we're outside the church, looking for needs to respond to and taking Jesus to the world. That's what we're about. For us to sit and talk about Jesus and ourselves, we don't do that. So we're struggling. Well, that taught me a tremendous amount about how we're taught to share our experiences. And so we don't all come from the same place, the same background. Do I have any former Baptists in here? Oh, look at that. Yeah, of course. We do. I mean, you bring a rich heritage with you. And it's wonderful. And I learned so much at Northminster Baptist Church. We got through 4 years of EFM together. Okay. Where is God immanent in your life? Where is God transcendent? The transcendent God, God the Creator. It's a hard question in light of Helene. It's a hard question. We have been through an experience. I went through Hugo and I went through Katrina. And this is my 3rd hurricane, and they were all awful. They were all terrible. And yet, what I have learned and seen is when I look for the immanence of God, it is with the linemen, it is with the convoy of trucks coming up the mountain to restore our power from places as far away as Illinois and Ohio and all sorts of places. It is with the people who are serving people meals. It is with Central Kitchen. What's that title of that? World Central Kitchen, who are set up in Banner Elk, who are feeding people. It's with, wait a minute. What is Graham's? Wow, am I impressed with Samaritan's Purse. Holy smokes, they're everywhere. They're all up in Banner Elk helping people out. And I'm impressed with FEMA, let me tell you. They are all up there too. I can't speak for here because I wasn't here, but I can speak for Banner Elk, where I was when it hit. And so that is our God who is immanent in the world. Jesus is with us every time we reach out and help and respond. Whether it's just in conversation or need, Jesus is here. And the God that is our Creator, I do believe, is a God who said to me years ago, Helen, how well are you all prepared for a flood? And I didn't know how to listen to that. What flood? Flooding doesn't happen in the mountains. Well, we've learned something. Usually it doesn't. But we've learned a lesson that we can look at God's creation and say, what do we need to be prepared for? And in my family, we are looking at an old root cellar, a stone root cellar, and looking at how we can redo it to keep us safe from fire. Because I'm convinced there will be a forest fire sometime. Maybe not in my lifetime. I don't know, because I'm no spring chicken. But we are preparing for how creation is changing and how we can deal with it. So I leave those questions with you to think about, to respond to. I'm so happy to be with you. Yes, this sermon is a little long. I apologize. It won't be as long next time, but I'm delighted. I don't think. We shall see. But thank you for the call. Thank you for welcoming me, and I'm in.